What's going on, everybody? Ben with liftedimports.com here, and today we're going to talk about a couple of things to think about if you're considering lifting your Subaru and you're not really sure if it's the right thing for you. And these are going to be 6 things that, if they're true in your situation, you probably shouldn't lift it. Before we jump into this, just want to let you know that if you need any other information, you want to check out some other build features from other lifted Subaru owners, if you head over to liftedimports.com, there's a ton of good information on the website. You can check out builds from other people that are just like us. A lot of other good information about tires and lift kits and things like that. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So the number one sign that you should not lift your Subaru is if you think it's going to be a rock crawler. Now, you can definitely do a lot of stuff with a lifted Subaru that typically you would not expect. And it's really impressive. I've done a lot of stuff in my Subaru that I really didn't think it would actually be able to do. But if you think that, oh, if I just put the biggest lift possible and I just put the biggest tires possible, I'm going to be able to keep up with rock crawlers. That is 100% not true. It's not accurate. That's not how that works at all. Subarus lack a low-range transfer case. A low-range T-case is what allows you to basically reduce your gear ratio to the point where you can utilize your engine's horsepower at low speeds without spinning the tire. With Subarus, you'll notice that you kind of have to carry your momentum through a lot of difficult terrain in order to make it through, and that's totally fine. But the downside of that is it's hard on the car, it's hard on the trail. That's how you break stuff, you know. I mean, if you're going to try to climb over a boulder, you can't really just charge at a boulder 20 miles an hour and expect to not break a bunch of stuff. With a low range transfer case, kind of like what you'll see in 4Runners, Jeeps, anything that's an actual 4x4, they're going to have a transfer case that allows them to slowly climb up large objects. That's why you'll see those people out there on the trails being able to climb over boulders. But a Subaru, it's just not going to happen. You're going to beat the thing half to death trying to do that. So if you think you're going to build a rock crawler out of a Subaru without serious reconstruction and fabrication work, it's just not going to happen. There are people out there taking Subarus, putting them on truck frames and doing an entire 4x4 running gear underneath it. If that's you, I have no idea why you're on this video, and you already know how this stuff works. So the number 2 sign that you should not lift your Subaru is you're worried about maintenance costs. Now, if you just lift your Subaru, you're really not going to do a bunch of damage to the car. Yes, technically increasing the angle of the CV axles, I guess, is going to reduce the lifespan of them. But it's mainly the wear and tear that comes with installing bigger tires and driving more aggressively in damaging conditions. So many people, you know, they're rarely just going to lift the car and leave the stock tires on. You're typically lifting it so that you can take it out for a specific purpose, which is to drive the crap out of it in the mud, dirt, snow, sand, water, all these different types of things. And doing that in addition to carrying heavy rooftop items like a rooftop tent, running heavier wheels and tires, all of that stuff is going to wear things out, like axles, tie rod ends, steering racks. You know, at the end of the day, there's just a lot of wear and tear items that are going to wear out quicker. Now, is it going to happen overnight? Absolutely not. I mean, if you go out there and you just beat the heck out of the car on the trails, of course you're going to break stuff. But in my experience, if you drive the car correctly, you know, you're strategic picking your line, and you don't just bash the car into a wall every time you take it out. I mean, you can get years out of a Subaru with pretty mild maintenance, even with bigger wheels and tires. But it does still present the fact that it's going to cost you extra money to replace things that are inevitably going to break when you're taking a vehicle off-road and when you start modifying it. That's just the reality of it. Is it going to bankrupt you? Probably not. But is this the right sport for you if you're pinching pennies? Probably also not. The number 3 sign that you should not lift your Subaru is if you are on a very tight budget. And I'm all for saving money, But if you are really concerned about spending money, I would absolutely recommend that you reconsider lifting your Subaru right now. I would wait until you have a little more resources or until you've saved up a little bit of extra money. Because what happens is if you're on a really tight budget, you will inevitably end up cutting corners. You're going to do things like buy a cheap no-name lift kit that's actually going to cost you more money down the road. You're going to do things like buy a set of tires that are too big for the car just because you found a good deal on them. You're going to do stuff like buying aftermarket axles because they're more affordable, only to find out that those are just going to blow apart on you regardless of if your Subaru is lifted or not. So if you're on a really tight budget, lifting a Subaru and driving cars off-road in general is just not a very cost-effective thing to do. I think with Subarus, it's absolutely one of the best ways to get out into the forest and see more scenery, get out and adventure, because they're relatively affordable vehicles. But if you're concerned about money to a level where you're willing to cheap out on the parts, absolutely you should wait. You should definitely wait to lift your Subaru, and you should wait to take it off-road, because you're going to gloss over things like skid plates, you're going to gloss over things like preventative maintenance, regular maintenance, things like that. And the fourth sign that you should not lift your Subaru is if you're worried about warranty coverage, modifying a vehicle in any way, shape, or form is going to make that process a little bit more difficult for you. So me personally, I don't drive new cars. I always drive old cars. I drive cars that I can beat up. But I know a lot of you probably just bought a brand new Subaru and you want to modify it. And you can still modify a car and continue to have warranty work done. But if you're one of those people who values the warranty, or you paid extra money for an extended warranty, it will make it more difficult to prove your case when certain warranty claims come up. So for example, let's say you do have a CV axle failure and you take it in and they look at your car and they're like, well, it's lifted 2 inches, you've got tires that are 2 inches taller than the original overall diameter, and there's mud caked up inside the wheel wells. Like, it's obvious that this thing's been off-road and you've modified it, and it's pretty easy to see that you've been beating the heck out of it, and that's what caused the CV axle failure. It's not a defect. We're not going to cover that. So you're going to run into situations like that. I don't think for everybody that it should be kind of a deal ender for you. You may still want to do it and roll with it. Now, just because you lift your Subaru doesn't mean that Subaru can just void your whole warranty. That's not really how warranties work. Vehicle warranties, unless the car is crashed and the title is now bad, and there may be some other situations, but overall, they can't just void your vehicle's warranty for one modification that you do. What they can do is they can refuse to perform certain work based on a warranty claim that you're making. So they can deny warranty claims if they can prove that your modifications are the cause of whatever it is that you're asking them to fix. Now again, it's not that if you just lift it, it's gonna immediately make everything, I'm never gonna get anything warranted at the dealer now. But there are a lot of situations where it's just gonna add an extra layer of you having to argue your case and go through a little bit more work in order to say, no, look, like this is a clear defect. This doesn't have anything to do with any of the modifications that I've done. Now, there's going to be obvious things where it's clear that it's not a direct result of your modification that caused the issue. Like, for example, if you've got a lifted Subaru and your infotainment center just dies or has some sort of a malfunction, it's pretty clear that, okay, this is just a defective stereo unit. This has nothing to do with the fact that my car is lifted. Those things are going to be pretty cut and dry, but there's going to be a lot of other cases where you might have to sort of argue a little bit and prove your case. What I will say about warranties, if you do have a newer Subaru, it is under warranty, and you do still want to lift it, the best piece of advice that I can give you is, before you begin doing your modifications, start shopping around in your area. There's going to be some dealerships that are just way more understanding of modifications, and I've heard a lot of personal experience from people who went to one dealership and were just like, no, anything that you do to the car for off-road modification, that we're not gonna play that game. And then they go right across town to the other dealership and they're like, no, this is what these cars are made for. We love that people are taking them off-road. We'll do whatever we can to help you out. Now, obviously, that's all anecdotal evidence. You're gonna have to kind of go out, meet with the service drive managers at your local Subaru dealership, talk to the service writers, and just kind of get a feeling for, you know, how they view that stuff and whether or not they're going to be on your team, you know, because ultimately it's kind of up to Subaru whether or not things get covered, but you want these people on your team to kind of help guide you in the right direction and to go to bat for you. So meet with your local service drive managers if you can, see if you get an appointment, or if you know somebody there, see if you can kind of get in and talk to somebody. But that's something to consider. If you do value warranty coverage on your Subaru, lifting your car is gonna add another layer of complication to it. Now, the fifth sign that you probably shouldn't lift your vehicle, especially a Subaru, is if on-pavement handling is really important to you, this might not be the right thing. Now, if you just lift a car 2 inches, it's not gonna do a lot. But I've met people out there that they come into it with a different standard. You know, like if you've been driving Porsches your whole life and then you get into a lifted Subaru, you're going to be like, this lifted Subaru handles like garbage. You know what I mean? Like, it's all kind of how you come into it. But there are people that have a certain standard in their head of, I want my vehicle to function this way, and if it doesn't, I'm not happy about it. So if you lift a Subaru and you know, you put bigger tires on it, it's going to accelerate far more sluggishly. You're going to have more body roll. The brakes, you know, you're going to have an increased braking distance. There's just going to be a lot of things that sort of degrade the on-road performance experience. Now, is it horrible? Absolutely not. Like, I've daily driven my lifted Subaru on mud terrains, and I really don't mind it, but that's me. You know, I don't care about it at all. Like, I'll drive a rock crawler as a daily driver. I don't give a fudge, you know. Now, if I'm doing 100 miles a day for commuting, probably gonna pick something a little more practical. But if you're a person that very much cherishes smooth on-road handling, wants it to feel almost exactly like it came from the factory, lifting a Subaru is definitely going to decrease the on-road experience for you. Now, there's definitely different things that you can do to kind of cut down on body roll and things like that. You can do aftermarket suspension that has a stiffer spring rate. You can do things like king springs. You know, there's a lot of options to kind of help bring it somewhat back. Regardless, with a Subaru, it's very minimal. You're not looking at these huge differences in performance. You know, you're not lifting them 8 inches. You're not putting 35-inch tires instead of 28-inch tires. So there's nothing like that. But if you're a real picky person with pavement performance, probably don't lift your Subaru and modify it for off-road use. Now, the sixth and final reason and sign that you should probably not lift your Subaru is just if you're strictly not even remotely planning on taking it off-road, you're not going to get a whole lot of benefit if you lift the car. Now, you can absolutely do whatever you want to your vehicle as far as aesthetic things. I'm the first person that will show up and say, hey, if you like something because of the way it looks, I'm not going to judge you for that. I absolutely think it's totally fine. We'd all be stupid if we pretended that we didn't care about the way that our stuff looks. But I will say that there's other modifications and other things that you can do to your Subaru to still improve the appearance and kind of give it a look that you like and keep it running for longer. there's other things you can do with that money that you'd be spending to modify it with a lift kit. Even without a lift kit, you can still install a more aggressive tire that's going to give it a better look. You can still install an aftermarket off-road oriented wheel, so like Method race wheels, Black Rhino, Rika, Speedline, Team Dynamics, a lot of these rally inspired wheels. Actually, a lot of these wheels are used in rally, but you can still do a lot of the things to get that look without lifting it and you know, changing the center of gravity on the vehicle. So if you're not going to take it off-road, my opinion would be go ahead and take that money, put it in the bank, put it in a high yield savings account, and just keep up on, you know, recommended service intervals, and then just routine maintenance. Make sure you keep up on your oil changes, save up money for, you know, any unforeseen failures or unforeseen maintenance items that might pop up. Like, you never know when you might hit a nail on the freeway and have a tire blow out. You don't know. There may be situations where service may be coming up that you didn't think about, like a timing belt replacement. You know, those aren't cheap. You know, newer Subarus are pretty solid, but head gasket repairs are still things that occasionally will need to be looked at and addressed. You know, it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive, you're always going to have things that are going to pop up on you. So if you're not taking it off-road, again, you can do whatever you want, but you're not going to gain a lot, and you can absolutely still improve the overall appearance of the car by doing other things without lifting it. Now, I will say there's one caveat here. There are some folks that have back issues or knee problems or different things. They might be a little bit taller. I'm only 6 feet, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are, you know, 6'2", 6'4", a lot of bigger guys that, you know, they actually like having something that's a little bit higher off the ground. So even if you're not going off-road and you want to lift it for those purposes, absolutely, you can definitely do that. You know, people with back issues, entry and exit in and out of a vehicle that's at a specific height might be a little bit easier for you. So that would be something to consider. But those are the 6 signs that I put together that I think are pretty clear indicators that maybe modifying your Subaru in a different way is probably maybe more beneficial for you. Again, you can kind of do whatever you want, but these are just some different things that I see and hear about pretty regularly that kind of scare people away from doing it and cause them to change their approach to vehicle modification. So if you want to check out other lifted Subaru builds, like I said, head over to the liftedimports.com website. If you have a sick lifted Subaru build that you think we should see, email us on the website. We'd love to put it out there for other people to learn about and other people to check out and get inspiration from. All right, till next time, we'll see you guys out on the trail. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a great day.